board meeting to order. Number 2, roll call shows that everyone is in attendance tonight. 3, agenda changes. Are there any? If not, we'll move to 4, consent agenda. A, August 20th, 2020 regular board meeting minutes. B, August 20th, 2020 committee of the whole minutes. And C, presentation of accounts and other claims against the village as presented. Are there any questions? If not, could I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda.
Second. You can have it.
Roll call, Dan?
Aye.
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 Motion carried. 5, pre-registered citizens to be heard, and there are none. 6, committee reports, there are none. 7 is unfinished business from previous meetings, there is none. 8, new business, cancellation of Wednesday, September 2nd, 2020 village board meeting. And I would need a motion.
I'll make a motion to cancel the Wednesday, September 2nd, 2020 board meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. B, recreation program, job description, application process. Do we need to decide on that tonight?
Not necessarily.
No.
We'll put them in there. If there was a decision, we could make it.
We are happy with what was discussed and we can just move forward. Okay. C, court budget 2021, and we will wait until everyone gets the spreadsheets from Norb and,
Do you want to just move it to the bottom? I think she's printing them now.
oh, she is.
Yeah, I just told her it's on the agenda. If she wants to print them for the board to kind of look at it.
Yeah, but I don't think they're gonna have the notes retyped
Right,
like that,
they'll have the
so
budget numbers.
there's not
Take
much,
one and
I
pass
don't
it
know
down.
that there's much we can do with it until we get all that.
You don't need to vote on it, but I'm just saying, at least you get the budget numbers, then you can take it home.
Okay.
Something.
So really, no discussion, or did
I
you
can
want to
just-
discuss?
Yeah, there's nothing to discuss.
No.
They can send it to
As long as
us.
there's no discussion, then there's.
Yeah. Okay, then we will move to D, debt service modeling proposal from Ellers.
I think I included in your packet or in the memo, the proposal from Ellers. We would like to have him take a look at our debt and have him give us a 5-year proposal on what's the best way to get rid of that debt.
And
Yeah,
it's kind of like a restructuring of our debt, to remove some, like she said, and then basically, the plan would be to go out for a bond for a capital improvement plan. So for our 5-year CIP, so that would be 5 years of projects, and to kind of go out and get that debt scheduled. Basically, the goal would be to do it without any increase whatsoever. We have debt that's falling off currently, that we could go out and not have a tax increase, but yet take out funds for the plan, the CIP, the capital improvement project, which is part of the packet that Carl sent to you.
yeah. In which, I think, I was just talking with Peter, we'd like to probably get together with the public facilities and discuss some of these more immediate items, 21, 22. But again, using Ellers to develop a 5-year, to look at our finances, develop a 5-year plan, while it's a little bit of a cost now, one mistake with the loan later, and the way we did in the old days, was more than pay for it. I mean, we're talking a few $1,000s for them to come in and look at it. How much is it? I don't have it. but,
3,500.
Well, when you look at the interest rates on a note, if we take out the wrong kind of loan, we're gonna
So
lose
the
out much more than,
The fire loan, we're paying 3.5% for,
yeah.
through the Wolf River. It's extraordinarily high compared to all the ones that they're getting. He said the highest, he's been getting between 1.5% and 0.7% interest rates. because of the way that municipalities work.
Yeah, he couldn't believe we had that high of an interest rate on
Wow.
that restructuring we
Right.
just did.
So that'll pay for this cost alone, just.
We thought that was a bargain.
Right.
It might have been at the time.
Yeah, at one time
Right.
it probably was.
Well, we just restructured this one, this was just recently.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at
We got
3.5.
that
Yeah.
Okay.
Having them look at our 5-year debt, or our debt for the next 5 years, and helping us set up, it'll make it easier for the village to, you know, come in at a net zero tax increase, or try to lower it. I think the projections, initial projections are going down a little bit every year.
I think it was around 20,000 or so if we took out a $2 million bond for a 5-year payment. The restructure payment is kind of some of the initial numbers we were running.
That's what paying off some debt, yeah.
We'd only have one thing in debt at that point. That would be our 2016 A bond, which is what we currently are in. It's a building and a few other things.
Yeah.
So what do you need from us tonight?
To pass, to allow,
Motion, yeah.
Approve that agreement with Ellis.
Okay, who's got a copy of the agreement?
So is the amount 3,500, because that's what's in here?
Yeah.
Is that what we're voting on?
Yeah.
Okay.
They had originally brought a larger agreement that looked at a ton of other stuff, but we wanted to pare it down to just this, our debt and capital financing.
So you want a motion that we approve, how much is the expense?
3,500.
3,500 for the fees that Ellers would charge us for the debt service modeling proposal. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, that's my motion.
I'll second that.
Roll call, Dan?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll move to E, Hortonville Helping Hands Rideshare. Is there any other discussion on that?
I think we're good.
Okay.
I guess I just have one quick question. Do you have ample amount of volunteers at this point that we're ready to go, but then kind of put in limbo for a little bit? I mean,
I think so.
think so?
I think there's probably maybe 7 that I need to follow up with all their paperwork.
Okay. And looking at 2021 budget, is it something that we need to look at administration-wise? Is it a lot of administrative stuff?
I mean, it all depends on what you guys do with your stuff. Because you might free up time, you might not, I don't know.
Okay.
So it's all
Just
part of
wondering if
that
we need to-
restructure.
Talk about it again for budget time.
Potentially, because it might,
We have to go out for a budget for the county soon.
yeah,
Okay.
I
yeah,
mean,
exactly. Because initially when the budget went through, it was for 17,000, that was for 1 van. So if we got really busy with 2 vans, that doesn't even help with gas and all the other
Oh, the one.
Yeah.
expenses for 2 vans, so, yes.
That's Zabriskie?
Okay.
Oh, the county meeting?
So can we, so that it doesn't fall off the radar, do we just, what do we wanna do to make sure? It'll be on the 2021 budget, right? And we'll just talk about it then, right?
It would be yeah, it'd be a separate,
Okay.
tab, but, I mean, it's not,
Or we could bring it up at a later meeting if you like.
I think, yeah, I mean, it's gonna depend on what the county allows us to, I mean.
Because we were under the impression that you had all the volunteers and this was like no big deal, but then it kind of became where maybe we don't have what we need, and so I just want to make sure that we don't can the program because we didn't have what we needed to have.
Right.
We had the volunteers, it was an issue of workers' comp.
Correct. And then
And
what
whether they
happened?
should be on payroll, we've
Yeah.
resolved that.
Correct.
Okay.
But I want to make sure, because there's expenses that went with it, especially administrative expenses, we need to consider for 2021.
Right, yeah, but you'll bring that up at budget time. Okay.
Any other questions?
Me and David were just talking, there's a Allegheny County webinar tomorrow from the transportation, their department, transportation department. One of their agenda items is Hortonville. So we're gonna watch the webinar and join in and just see what they say. It may be just discussing our program out here, or
Well,
just,
there's a whole list of.
yeah, it's not just us, so I don't think it's anything nefarious. We just wanna participate and see what's going on at the county level, you know, if there's any concerns on their end,
Okay.
so. May mean nothing, so we'll see.
We'll move to F, R-24-20, approving budget transfer amendments.
Yeah, this is, basically, after the last meeting, we were gonna do the delineation, and we were gonna use reserve funds for that, but we found, 3,000 in the education fund, which I think was originally approved for a prior administrator who was going through college at the time. So, that's, you guys do $1,000 a year as a benefit, but no one uses it currently, so we're gonna restructure that and push it into the planning and mapping to pay for the delineation of the property that was discussed.
Oh, okay. So you're gonna move it all?
Yeah,
Okay.
What was the cost for the delineation?
They were sending over an agreement,
35?
it was less.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay, so we should have enough funds to cover it.
Yeah.
Okay.
not that we can speak on that, but there's been interest expressed. Can we talk a little bit? No? Alright, never mind.
Well, I think it's like an abandoned or a wetland.
Yeah,
He was talking about something else.
Yeah.
Sorry.
the property's hot commodity, that's all I got to say.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve R-24-20, approving budget transfers and amendments.
I'll second. Roll call, Dan?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. G, Public Administration Associates Organizational Review Study Proposal. And are we looking at?
You know,
Go ahead with this?
Well, I looked through that list that was provided to us. It's a very comprehensive listing of the services that they would provide for the fee of $39, that's what I thought. You know, in my take on this whole thing, and I think you originally brought this up, would be that going through this process first might help us find those specific skill sets, might limit the field of respondents, might give them a good map of you know, what they're expected to do. So, you know, I feel it's $3,900 would be well spent prior to going out for looking for candidates. That's my opinion.
I think I still agree with that too, Peter. My concern is kind of what happened our last time around with, you know, someone coming in that maybe wasn't that experienced and kind of tweak things a certain way. I think this way we get some good input as to how our structure is, what might work best. It might limit the candidates, but at least they're honestly knowing what they're coming into as well. And I think that's an advantage,
So you agree?
yeah.
Okay.
But,
And
I
so,
mean, we're not mutually exclusive here, right? I mean, we can move forward, we could, literally, you could do both at the same time.
Well,
Or you can move forward with an administrator, with the recruitment process for an administrator, and then, and have that work in the timeline before the holidays, and then still do this review study, while the person is new.
Yeah, but
And
he
we're not mutually
this
exclusive.
candidate then wouldn't have a roadmap of what's expected of them. That's why I'm saying this process, this reassessment, reorganizational issue should be done first. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
It
Then
might
you've
help
got-
the person applying for the jobs.
Yeah, I mean, you could better fit a candidate to that than you can if you had both going on at the same time.
Yeah, well, I respectfully, I disagree. I think that we
Well, I
are
respectfully
narrowing, I think we're
disagree
narrowing.
or agree
Yeah,
with your disagreement.
I mean, I think we're narrowing the scope of the position, and saying, well, we might get somebody who fits better, but if you widen the scope before you reorganize and restructure, then you have the ability to get someone who fits here, and then you restructure around that, instead of saying, we restructured and here's where you're gonna fit. Well, they kind of fit here, and they don't fit quite there. But if we restructure after they come in, we restructure to fit with that person in the position. So I mean, if we get
It
somebody.
can work both ways.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. That's why I say I don't
I
think
think
that it's significantly better. The only
I
difference is
would
the
think we
timeline.
need the assessment to see where we're at, and then when we hire somebody, then we have another piece that fits into the puzzle, and then we'd have enough basis to change the organization if needed.
You know, when we hired the last administrator, we didn't have a manual, if you will. It was a generic job duties. This is going up and beyond that, I think. And, you know, we didn't, in my opinion, we didn't look at that candidate in the proper manner. I think we just took his sales abilities as a prerequisite for his hiring.
Well, I acknowledge there were
You know,
mistakes there, but.
And again, you know, he's been in business, he was a businessman.
Mhm.
This local government is a business, but he ran it like his business.
Yeah,
That's the wrong approach,
okay.
and we all found that out. So, again, I'll go back to what I said before. I think this 3,900 would be good money spent to look for that candidate, okay. That's, again,
Yep,
that's my
yep.
opinion.
Yep, I had a question, Dave, are the results from this likely to change the job description significantly? If we follow through with this first,
yeah. I mean,
Or
you don't know,
Or-
there's other ways of approaching local government in terms of positions and, you know, it's not an absolute that you would say the administrator approach is the best. I mean, you could come up with some other way of, you know, like some kind of coordinator position, or, you know, as we start talking about ways other communities do things, which they will do, you'll see certain options, so it's not an absolute. Kind of to Julie's point, you know, you do have two different ways of looking at this. One, as a person coming in, the challenge of the, you know, reorganizing, you know, that's one way. The other way is, you know that PAA is doing a study and you're coming in, you can say, PAA has looked at the organization, come up with some good ideas, and, you know, you got these things to go on. So, I mean, it's kind of like different
It's kind
sides
of
of the coin.
what Jim's saying, like in tandem. So you're still doing, you're still looking at a reorg, but somebody coming into it knowing if you know, I picture if myself were going into a job, look, you know, the job's been done this way for so many years, but we're actually looking to have somebody, an Etch-a-Sketch moment, to shake that Etch-a-Sketch and start, but we have this information here that's really gonna help the direction we need to go. And if it's somebody that has that doesn't, you know, that can see they have the fort right, instead of just coming in and this is the cookie cutter administrator position.
Right.
What I don't want is this to limit who we choose, because this should be that handbook that you give to the new person that says, here's your you know, Lego book of what you can build with these pieces. How you mix the pieces up to make that happen is up to you. So I just want to make I would hate to have this, like, as your point, the second part, where us using this as the sole determinant for the hiring process, because I think that will really reduce the scope, and that person may come in and say, yeah, this doesn't work for me the way, now I have all the details what everyone does and how this is set up. I would like to do this because I think it'll work out best.
And I think we've also learned that there are certain questions we could be asking right up front in an interview. That maybe, that instead of hitting the generic interview questions, I think we have some very specific questions we could ask that would give, I think what Peter's looking at, like, okay, so let's narrow the scope down. Okay, but we can ask very specific questions, and we might get 10 different answers, but which answer is the best fit for this village? You know, I don't know. I guess I feel like in tandem, you know, they could be, we do both, but I don't know.
I think this would be a great tool, right, for whoever, the results from this will be a great tool for whoever comes into the position to work with the board, because if you go into a position and you're going to take charge, right, no matter what, you're gonna do it differently than the last person, right? You're gonna have your own ideas about how things are gonna get done, and you're gonna, you end up creating friction a lot of friction, if everything is very rigid and everything is already in place. But if you come in and somebody says, okay, so this is the study that we did and said, these are the recommendations, here's what we currently have, we would like you to come in and work with this and work with us and build the structure around that works for everybody, works for the board, works for the staff, and works for the administrator, and try to alleviate a little of the rigid friction that you get when you have everything already in place and you try to squeeze that person into the box.
Especially since my interpretation of that report, that end report, might be very different than Jim's, might be very different than Peter's and anybody else, staff. That report might be a very different interpretation. I just feel like it's a tool. It's a tool, but I would hate to just do a job description based on that. I feel like there are some basic skeleton things that an administrator or somebody in that position needs to be doing. How we want to mold everything around that skeleton, that's what we'd be working on. But I think anyone coming in, I think we have some pretty hefty interview questions that we need to be asking. And how they answer that determines the direction that person, may take with this.
Do you have a sense that, and it might be the case, that you would choose, I was just throwing out there that there are other ways of organizing things, but most small communities kind of use the administrator approach. Do you think that you might, if you think that you won't change that viewpoint, you could go out now, like we're talking about, and also do the study and kind of utilize the study like you're talking about. Or we could do, timing-wise, the October, till October 15th, have them do the study and then go out on October 15th, unless there was any major issues with the study.
So are you saying that the administrator might not be the title that we're looking for?
Well, that will be probably some options where that's the case, but it's unusual in a small community for that to occur. But it's not, you're talking about shaking things up. Well, there are ways of doing that, but it's also a little bit different than most.
And we have ran that across more than once. Do we
Right.
just need a part-time administrator / financial person or /
Business manager?
whatever. And this is something that maybe this study could provide us. Because maybe we don't want a full-time administrator.
Right.
That would probably
You know?
come out as one of their options,
Right.
like a different way of looking at things.
And then we go out on October 15th and we put this out because I think sooner is better than later. Even though we are running
I
into
don't think the
holidays.
timing of this is the question. I think of how it's going to be used is really the question.
Yeah.
So I think this happening anytime isn't an issue for me. It's how it's going to be used. I don't want this to define necessarily the role that we are looking to fill. I want this to be a tool for that role, that person in that role to use to organize the group. That's, in my opinion, that's what I'd like to see, rather than using it as a sole determinant. I think that the report that you had us do for the last one, I think that best summarizes the qualities we're looking for in that position, regardless of what it is. That's the qualities I'm looking for. And then this is really what the tool I want them to use, those qualities, and create, an office admin situation that works for us. That's my opinion.
What kind of timeline are we looking at to complete the review?
Well, he said he could, it says in there October 30th, but he said
He could move it
he could
up.
do it to the 15th. He could finish by the 15th.
Okay.
And that's why I was mentioning, the 15th happens to be the Thursday when we meet. If you do go ahead with it, then he could make the presentation. If there was nothing unusual about the presentation or that didn't come up, you could start then with your recruitment.
Okay.
You think we'll get that study a day or two before the meeting then?
I'd have to talk to him. He's the guy who is camping
Yeah.
right now.
And
Go on
that's
the phone, but-
kind of why I'm posing it.
Yeah. We could push
It's
them
gonna
to
be
do
a lot.
that, yeah, I think it would be important, you know, so you're not just getting hit.
Yeah.
Or it would give you a weekend maybe to think about it after he gives the presentation, and then we have a special meeting that
Yeah.
next week possibly, so to give them feedback, that's another approach.
Because then we would have to define the position after that.
Right, well,
That-
all of this
that-
can be worked on, I mean, if there's a sense that we're gonna go out, we can work on everything. We can work on the announcement, we can work on the profile, so that if you decide to go out, we can go bam, you know, and just do it.
So basically, you are looking for a motion to, accept this tonight, and
Yep.
then we would change that in there from October 30th to at least the 15th, if not a little sooner.
It'd be nice to have it before the presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I want to make sure we're all in agreement, though, that we're going to do this first. Is that correct?
Yeah, I just think
That
that
would
we're
be
just
for-
not using it as the defining.
No, I
goal.
would
It's a
agree with
tool.
that.
Yeah,
but
it's
I
a
don't
tool,
think-
right.
It's a tool,
Yeah.
get it rolling.
Yeah,
and
we get
get
this started tonight, and then as soon as
Yeah.
this is, as soon as this is wrapping up, moving forward with the,
I'll make a motion to accept the proposal from PAA for the organizational review study in the amount of $3,900.
second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
How'd you do?
Dana, roll. Roll call, Dana.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
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 motion carried. Okay, then we will go to H, any other miscellaneous topics for
Uh,
future discussion?
Yeah, public facilities meeting next week. Julie and Pat, I think you're both on there, correct?
Mhm.
What do you got available next week?
you too,
Carl,
I think I am too.
Yeah, I think you were.
Yeah,
you are too?
Yeah,
yep,
Next
Oh.
because you met by phone with us last time.
I was at
And
the.
Shauna, are you available next week too?
Some point.
Not that, well, not Friday either,
No, it would have to be like
Tuesday or Wednesday. either.
Tuesday, Wednesday.
I'm available both evenings.
You are,
Yeah, I should be too.
Pat?
Yeah,
Okay, how about next, what's the date next Tuesday?
the eighth.
8th, okay, a week from, all right. At, is 5 o'clock okay? Or would you rather have it later?
We have library board
Oh,
Tuesday the
I'm
8th.
sorry. Thank you, Ally. I
Okay, how about next Wednesday?
Thank you, Ally.
Is this room available? Do we know? Wednesday evening? We're not bumping in the
No, I
court,
doubt it.
that's actually
Unless
this week,
court-
right?
We have court tomorrow.
Court is tomorrow.
You know,
Okay, Wednesday the 9th at 5 PM? Everybody okay with that?
Am I okay with that, Ally?
Is she your secretary?
I feel bad, I forgot.
Okay, here,
and then previously,
Carl, you wanna work on an agenda with?
we set the,
Yeah,
17th, we're having a cow at 5 PM to discuss the Opera House and the future of the senior center. Is that all right with everyone?
yeah, I think what we're gonna talk about
17th.
The
might lead
17th.
into that as an agenda item as well. So, we're just gonna look at prioritizing some projects, up or down. So,
At 5.
Yeah.
Oh, so you've got it on there now.
Anything
Wednesday the
else?
9th?
So I don't know if this is a topic for the board or not, but the state of the, I don't know who addresses this, but the state of the old candy factory buildings is growing in hazard. This winter, it's gonna get a whole bunch of snow and it's gonna get piled up, and it's gonna be even more dangerous. People wander through there and the building is gonna collapse pretty soon. So I don't know how we address that. I don't know if we need to put it, if there's anything that we can do, or if it goes on a new business or anything.
Is it a Paul Hanlon thing?
yeah, I know the police have been working with them, I think, right?
So, yeah, so it's gonna be a topic for future discussion.
That's what I was saying,
but-
if we,
Yeah.
We
But
need to
let's
put it on there.
talk to Paul about that
Yeah.
being a commercial building.
We're just experiencing vandalism,
yeah,
graffiti on the building, so.
that's my concern. is
Yeah,
that-
so I think Paul can look at it regardless, and that'll be,
Okay.
So we'll put it on the next agenda then? Okay. Anything else? If not, we'll move to 9, report of village officials. A, interim administrator.
Nathan or Carl can also give this any background, but we did hear from S.C. Swiderski, and there's a holdup in their project because the state they think there might be some bodies located on that property, buried on that property.
They're checking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, they
know
don't expect that.
It's,
They don't?
Not bodies, I don't think they expect.
Or remains?
It's
Are
an
there artifacts?
antiquities investigation or something.
Yeah, the state does a,
So you-
I didn't mean to say it like that, I guess, but that was not what I
Sorry.
meant. I'm sorry, it was, you know, there's
You're talking
remains.
about Indian artifacts?
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
state
Yeah.
process
Yeah,
when someone's building or constructing,
Yeah,
they
that's-
get involved if they think that there
No,
might be
they don't.
something
Yeah.
on the property.
Now we know. where
Not that,
bodies are.
you know,
Because of the size of the property, because of the size of the property, there's a trigger, and being next to the cemetery was another trigger for the state. And the fact that they found artifacts on 15 when they're doing the study for the bypass. So they're just, it's probably just, it clicked the box, and so they're gonna do a study. So it may delay it for just a little bit, but I don't anticipate it'll stop construction.
well, it's stopping the sale currently.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I don't think they're going anywhere though.
unless the state says no.
Well, you can move the bodies. No, they've done that.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They just, I think they just
but
want
they might
artifacts
find
in Neenah
pottery
too.
or
Yeah.
that type of thing is normally what they find.
So, you know,
Yeah, they
it
all
just
gotta go
depends
there.
what they find.
Maybe it'll
I've
be
been
My
watching too
shovel.
many maybe mysteries at home.
Maybe it'll be Jimmy Howard.
I guess the second point, I wanted to update the board. We did do some research, as per requested, about the security cameras. We talked to Hunter Security out of Greenville, a very knowledgeable guy, to see how he might handle, you know, a turn off, turn on situation for closed sessions. And he said initially it would be fairly inexpensive, but that camera would need to be changed out because it can't be connected to a switch. It's not adaptable. It's not a strong enough camera, I guess. So we would have to put a new camera there, and then running the switch is quite inexpensive. And we had some security questions about, you know, how the thing might get turned off and on. So you could actually do a security switch like they do in a school, like, you know, when you let down baskets or turn on lights so that nobody's doing it all the time. So we could do a security switch there, and it would also impact this camera too. It could talk to this camera and turn it off from that one switch. So that would be around $1,000 for that. The other issue, Chris and Carl were involved in the conversation with Matt, and I think they would agree that he's a very knowledgeable guy. He does the school district, he does Quick Trip, he does UW-Madison, Thrive, but he mentioned about it would have to then be linked into our system, our video system. And he doesn't see a problem with that, but we would have to check with our current guys to see if, you know, how that might be done or if there's any issues.
Right, when I spoke with ISS, who we currently have, they just said that the two cameras or whatever, that they need to be compatible with the system that we have. So he's checking that out and he's gonna get back to me. But when Hunter said, you know, $250 for a camera, ISS said, yeah, you can't beat that, so.
Well, and actually, it turns out to be more like 500
Yeah,
for that.
by the
camera.
time that they run the lock and
Yeah.
everything, but for the cameras itself.
And I guess we're trying to avoid that if ISS would come and have to do it, that would probably be more expensive since they're coming from Milwaukee or Madison. Right?
Yeah.
For some reason they had to.
Yeah, we've been ISS for a long time. It would be nice to have somebody more local, like Hunter Security or something like that, but we do have a maintenance or an agreement with, they're called Convergent now. They do our locks, our key fob, our security access system. That's one agreement, and our security camera system, that's another agreement they maintain. So I think it's about time that we maybe entertain looking at somebody else who might be able to do it for cheaper. So,
And no contract, he said.
and no contract, so. Like I said, they do the school, they do all the quick trips. He lives right here in Greenville. He seems much more knowledgeable. ISS, or now called Convergent, just seems to give us every chance they get. They're easy to work with, but they're pricey, so.
Who does the phone system? Convergent?
No, the phone system in here,
AT&T?
No,
actually, it's through Unitel.
yeah.
And the Toshiba system is, we're looking at a new phone system next year on
That's
the
okay.
capital plan, because it's outdated and it won't not be supported anymore.
Okay.
Okay.
So anyway, that's where our research is right now. And,
I would say do it sooner than later,
we'll keep,
so that it gets done.
Do we need to?
Should we look, see if what Hunter can do with the existing system,
Yeah.
and possibly maybe slowly work on eliminating the other company, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, we should find out when their maintenance contract is up.
Yeah.
It's a yearly contract, I can't recall, but I'll look into that.
So my only question is like this, like a security switch, like, so like in a gym, I get what you're talking about, oh, what that is.
yeah,
But how would we know whether that's on or off unless you literally put the thing in the switch to know? Like, is
Because
there,
we would bring the key to the meeting, it'd be on a big.
but is there
red
an
key.
indicator somewhere? Because I would hate for somebody, because yeah, we can pull blinds down and all that stuff, but anyone can look through the doors here, and if they know that the camera system is off, I'm just trying to think of the future, and sometimes people do things if they know they're not on camera.
Well, I think the only time it would be off would be during closed session.
And
You
it
would
would be-
immediately go turn it back on.
And it would be like somebody like the village president or somebody who would then be able to turn that on and turn it
It
off.
would be the clerk, unless the clerk has asked to step out, then
Okay.
it would be the chair.
But there wouldn't be an indicator that somebody out in the public would be visually knowing that that camera system is shut off.
I wouldn't think so.
They have no way to know that they're on right now. And they don't, yeah. And, I
Unless they
mean, to
can
be
see
honest,
the
we're
switch.
we're 20 feet away from the police department.
I get that, but I mean, people do know that those are here. I mean, I guess people that utilize the room, I mean, they're not hidden. I mean, they're
It's basically
got-
a key like an elevator. You turn the elevator on and off.
Okay.
That's what it's like, so. I don't think it's a big deal. I don't think anybody would know.
Yeah,
And the clerk treasurer is the keeper of the keys, so
But
Like I said, if
we
the
are,
clerk steps
and they're
out,
safe,
you
they're
can
locked
connect to
up,
the server, you can turn that on.
you know,
once
So-
you're done with your meeting, you can turn it back on, and if we're
Right.
gone, you can put it in the Dropbox.
right.
I'm
So,
just
I
looking
mean,
at it for
it's-
safety
it's
reasons.
secure.
Or-
It's not though.
I think, well,
You can always get in, if you can get through the server, you can get through the IP address, that's how you get into the camera system. You can watch it live whenever you want.
I suppose the Russians could hack it, but,
Just
you know, it
saying,
depends what you wanna do. I mean, you shut the power off to the
there's always
building.
gonna be access. Right? If you know what you're doing, there's always access, but yeah.
With malicious intent, yeah.
It depends on how far you wanna go. I think Jim's concern, this would cover that concern, right? It's just a switch.
yeah, just go switch.
I
Put
mean,
a security
and
switch in
Nathan's
that
right, you can
prevents you
always
from turning it
beat
off willy-nilly.
anything if someone's determined enough. But I think for what we're looking at, you know, spending $1,000 on 2 cameras and a switch, it's probably the direction we wanna go.
We can't just get like covers for them to put on during closed session. I mean, I'm just trying to think of, save yourself $1,000, here's a cover, you know?
Was
Well, we did
$1,000 well invested into a building that we're gonna have forever.
Yeah. I mean,
And-
they've been recording since
Uh,
2006, 2014 this building was built?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with the shutting it off, but I guess I keep thinking, is there just a cover that can just simply cap it during
Yeah,
during
I
the
mean, we
time?
could, that's
Literally,
possible.
Julia, it's like a phone plug.
I know what it is. I saw it hanging out
Yeah,
the other night.
yeah,
I saw
mean,
it.
it takes 2 minutes, so if you really wanted to save money, you just put a ladder in the closet and
Unplug
just
it.
unplug it when you have a closed session meeting.
Yeah, but
And
that's,
I don't understand, but
Yeah.
that's the cheapest solution that you could find.
Until the village president falls off the chair, which,
well, and two, and that could be also perceived by
No,
someone out in the
wait.
public too, that we've got, like say, not just you, but I'm saying in the future, that we have a board member that constantly, like I got questioned all the time why I was recording meetings. I was recording them because that was what I did for the village. if you're constantly unplugging something, it's gonna be questionable, why don't they want something on
Right, I
camera?
mean,
A
that's a
closed
good point.
session
Well, they
is
put
a
a switch in.
legitimate
Yeah.
reason to shut the cameras
Correct.
off
It is,
because it is against the law.
correct.
That's the only reason we are doing this, not for anything vicious or that we're accusing anyone of anything. It's a law that you do not tape a closed session. So we need to take care of the problem.
So I'm gonna give them a head nod so we can move on.
Yeah, let's buy it.
Let's move
Get
on.
the equipment,
We'll give them a head nod to spend $1,000.
yeah.
Yep.
Get it done properly. Or as Julie pointed out, maybe, little step ladder in each
Yeah.
corner.
I wouldn't
With a
say anyone
cover?
should unplug wires, but I mean, just a cap.
I know it's the cheapest way, but somebody's gonna forget to do that.
Or it might not
Done.
come off.
Okay,
Yeah.
do you have any more, Dave?
No, that's it.
Okay, then we'll move to B, clerk treasurer.
Just to note that the Wisconsin Elections Commission is sending out a mailing to all registered voters who do not have an absentee request on file as the end of June. They're trying to explain to voters how they can cast a ballot for the November election, encourage voters to use the My Vote site, and to encourage voters who choose to request absentee ballots to act early and return the ballot promptly. I don't ever remember them doing this, so it's kind of a big ordeal. Unfortunately, we've gotten a lot of requests since June, so those people will get another request, and they'll be confused, but that's just what happens, I guess. It's not the end of the world. We're still waiting on the Department of Revenue's guidance on the executive order deferring employees' portion of Social Security taxes. We haven't gotten any clear guidance on that. Everything I'm reading saying it's up to the municipality, whether they want to do that or not. So we might have to vote on that at the next meeting, if we get
Yeah.
any more information.
But my understanding is they came out with it just now.
Okay,
But, so if you defer for the final 4 months, then you're gonna pick that back up in the first 4 months of next year. So people's net pay will be greater for the last 4 months of this year, but you'll have double payroll tax coming off the
Right.
first 4 months of next year.
right.
And it's complicated.
But it still is up to the village
Yeah,
to
so you
decide.
can decide either way.
I
Yeah.
heard the
So
federal
that's
government
assuming that they do
approval
it.
with it
They bring it back.
themselves for their employees. And that's the only one I've heard about so far.
That really doesn't help anybody,
No,
Well,
Of course
because
not.
you're gonna get a double whammy
Right.
after the first of the year.
that's assuming that they bring it back. It's not a guarantee.
Well,
the perception is not reality. I mean, the perception people are gonna get bigger paychecks, all this payroll,
Right.
but no, you're gonna pay for it later.
6.2%.
Yeah, it all depends on whether or not they double charge them for it, double dip
Right.
later, or
Yeah.
if they forgive it.
Okay.
And we won't know that till next year.
After the election.
Correct.
Probably after inauguration.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I have.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move to C, director of public works.
Just a couple, Brick Street, that's that water and sewer repaving project. They got in there this week and pulverized the road. They were gonna start the water and sewer project tomorrow, but I asked them to wait till after the holidays. So they'll be in next Tuesday. I don't want people running on temporary water all holiday weekend, when it's only gonna take them a couple days to put the water and sewer in. And the Otto Miller electrical project, I put that on hold for now until I can talk to Public Facilities Committee. It's getting kinda late in the year. This was never my project, it was the previous administrator was pushing this forward. But I like to look at it again from a different perspective. I'm not saying it doesn't need to be done, but it could probably wait till next fall. And it won't really affect anything. I mean, we fixed the wiring up there, all the lights are working. I don't think it has to be done this fall, and I don't think I have to rush and try to get it in the paper and, all that good stuff, so. I just got the bid specs done and all that, and it's still, I'm not an electrician, but it still seems like we're pushing it, rushing it, so. I'd like to table it for now and look at it and do it next year, but, we can still do work at Otto Miller next year. We're still planning on doing some work there, so it's not like we're not doing anything, so. We're probably gonna do dugouts. But I think the Public Facilities Committee, I'd like to do more work in Miller Park versus Otto Miller, so. We'll talk about that later. That's all I have, unless anybody's got something for me.
If not, we'll move to D, Police Chief.
I don't really have a whole lot other than, pass out the August, activity report.
I do have a question.
Sure.
It's my normal.
No,
Any part of this 86
no.
crime? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the 86 are, with the summer and everything else, and the kids are out and about pretty late at night. We've had several curfew violations, that we've stopped and had conversations with, teenagers and stuff like that, so their business park, their park checks and stuff like that, so.
Okay.
We're
So-
making sure that we're entering in all the buildings and everything,
So for the most part,
no.
okay, thank you.
Come find me later. I gotta talk to you about something before I forget.
What?
I gotta talk to you about something. Find me later.
Okay.
Okay, then we will move to E, Library Director.
I really don't have much. Our library board meeting is on Tuesday the 8th. That's all I've got.
F, Attorney.
Yeah, I had 3 reports, real brief here. At the last meeting, there was the motion regarding Vandalay Properties, which is the 5-acre parcel in the industrial park. And I think we're meeting with Utchik today. They're developing building plans. They have agreed to the motion that passed, so that they will commence construction no later than April 1 of next year. And then consistent with the industrial park covenants, I put in there that it has to be completed in a year's time. If they fail to meet the construction deadlines, then the village would take it back, but there would be no repayment of the purchase price. Okay, so it's, exactly what you had adopted, what they've agreed to, and Charlie Litke signed an email copy. I'm gonna get his signature on an original notarized, but that basically is done. The second thing is Vans has 2 more lots there on, in Brookwood. I guess that's Michael Ridker there, right?
No, it's Brooklyn.
It's Brookwood there. And that will be, we'll be closing on that in October. I've made contact with them, and they're prepared to close on that as originally agreed. Okay, so that'll complete those lots.
Okay. Does that include the one, that includes the one on Gabriel, right? The one on the
Yeah,
corner
one on
of
the corner,
Brookwood and
the
Gabriel?
restructured one, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep,
okay,
Yep, the one where we eliminated the road.
yes.
Yeah, yeah, so they got that one, and then, one of the interior ones, on Brookwood. Okay? And then the last thing is, we completed the, deeding of the land, the cemetery land to the 4 property owners, adjacent to it,
Yeah.
Off of, what road?
Nash Street. Maple.
Yeah, off of Maple. So that's done. So that's all I got. Questions?
Any questions? Okay, we will go to G, and there is none. H, Building Permit Report, there is none. And I, Court Report. Did you want to present us with something right now, or do you have it ready?
The budget, some more detailed budget information to answer some of the questions that were brought up in the last discussion.
Stack in there. There's
then we will move to 10, communications and miscellaneous business. A, Black Otter Lake District News.
We had the annual meeting last night, and there were about 25 people there, I think. Does that sound about right? 20, yeah? Okay.
There was leftovers.
Okay. Approved the budget for next year. Carl talked briefly about the plans for the shelter. The harvester is still needing repairs, so the weeds are still growing. Let's see, anything else that
They agreed to the $10,000 a year to
Oh.
help the village do improvements along the lake, which is a big deal. It's a good thing because it's already in capital plan.
officers were elected, they're the same as before. And I think that's it.
Okay. Then we'll move to B, Hortonville, Hortonia Fire District News.
We had a meeting, so Dennis Clegg attended for the first meeting as the interim Hortonia president, as well as Andy Moeller replacing Bill Moeller on the Hortonia side. They don't have any big expenditures planned for the near future. Tried to pin them down a little bit, but the best they could do was say nothing in the next 10 years. Fire calls are down for the year. The only significant input from Dennis Clegg was to ask about a breakdown between the calls for the fire department between Hortonia and Hortonville. And then there were some questions about the non-resident fees for the fire and EMS calls because the previous administrator was taking care of that. They are still going to forward that information on to the office, and I'm assuming someone in the office, probably Nathan's going to take care of that, working with that for the collections off of insurance for non-residents when they have an emergency call, like an accident or something like that. The fire department gets called out, they bill their insurance company.
Yeah.
Other than that, it wasn't really much.
Any questions for Jim? If not, we'll move to C, Gold Cross Ambulance Run Report News, and there's none. D, Hortonville Civic Association.
Not much there, except I'm working with setting up the music for next year's Hortonville Homecoming. It looks like we're gonna contract a group out of Cincinnati, Ohio, with all the classic rock from the 70s and 80s. So I'm working on the contract with him now. But that's it. That's remains to be seen if we're gonna host it. I think we will. I think everything's gonna blow over on November 4th.
Or the 5th.
Any questions for Peter? E, we'll move to Senior Activities Committee.
Okay, we had a meeting this past Thursday, and I'll just pass these out. You can grab either one or the other. Just information on our Senior Autumn Fest, which is gonna be held Tuesday, September 22nd, and it's because of COVID, we're having it as a drive-through here in the parking lot. Chris has been great. She's gonna be working with Carl and whoever to help us with traffic flow. It was gonna be on a Wednesday, and we were gonna work with the ADRC as far as lunch goes, but there were some glitches in that as far as residency and that kind of thing. So what we're doing is we're purchasing picnic lunches from local businesses. Donaldson's, Alley Cat, and the Friends of the Library are donating water bottles. So we're gonna do it that way, and we're asking, as you can see on the bottom of this one, to help with traffic flow. We're hoping people will go with the times to come through during those times. Let's see, what else? The ride share, we talked about briefly at our meeting, but now that we have more details, that's real helpful, because it was kind of frustrating for us as a committee to be promoting the driving program, and we weren't really sure where we were at with drivers, but this is wonderful that we can really feel secure in promoting it. There was a request from a group called, they're called Make a Ride Happen. They've been attending our meetings since day one, I think, through Lutheran social services, and she requested that we do some collaboration because she was kind of feeling it was more of a competition thing. So we're gonna try to do more collaboration with them because they will take long distance trips, Mayo Clinic, Madison, Milwaukee. So we're gonna try to get some more open communication there. And then the grab and go meals that are taking place on Wednesdays will continue through the end of October. Maybe longer, depending on the need. And that's just for Outagamie County residents, but it's been successful. So,
Any questions for Pat?
On our ride share right now, the 2 vans encompass what size of an area? Do you know? Roughly?
well, I think the Fox Valley is what we were most of our trips have been New London, Appleton. Are you talking about riders?
Mhm.
Riders would be Hortonville and townships neighboring.
As long as you have Hortonville in your mailing and your address on your house or wherever we're picking you up, that's where it'll be. So
Oh, okay.
some parts of Greenville, some very little parts of Greenville, and then Ellington, Dale, Hortonville.
Not Shiocton.
And if there's Hortonville addresses up there, yeah.
Okay.
And most of the trips have been New London, Appleton.
Yeah.
Any other questions? We'll move to 11, comments and suggestions from citizens present.
You have what you need on here, otherwise Christina and Nora are here. If
I
you don't, I'll
actually
find it.
can't read a lot of this. Do you have a digital copy of this? Just because it's very blurry?
No, the attorney, is that the attorney want breakdown?
Yeah,
So the reason that I included that is that was a copy that was emailed to me from the.
oh, so they copied it and looked like this to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what that shows is on our prior budgets, it had attorney, meaning Bob and our prosecuting attorney. So what we are recommending for the next budget to separate out the expenses for which type of attorney to make it cleaner on the budget, but then to put the prosecuting attorney under the court budget so that we can just separate the expenses out a little bit to clean up the report a little bit. So that's just showing what charges were, but I didn't have time to put together what was requested to show the details of things that could have been different from 2019 to 20.
Okay. You didn't include an email address or anything for questions on this? Do you have, should that go to you?
Yeah, so it's court clerk at @VOHortonville.com.
Any other questions for Christina? Okay, then we will need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.